Welcome to Reddit Revenge Stories. Did you know over 90% of people watch these videos but don't subscribe? If you enjoy stories of justice and payback, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to like the video if you're ready for today's story. Let's get to the story. My name is Cole Warner. I'm a 41-year-old contractor from Central Illinois. Nothing flashy about me. I live a regular life, or at least I did. I'm the kind of guy who gets up early, drinks his coffee black, works until his hands are sore, then comes home to a dinner with the woman he married 18 years ago. Or at least that's the man I thought I was. The man I tried to be. But that man died the moment I realized the woman I loved had been lying to me for years. Angela and I met at a friend's barbecue. I was 23, she was 22. She had this loud, infectious laugh that could cut through a crowd, and a confidence that pulled people in. She was charming, quick-witted, and she made you feel like you were the only one in the room when she looked at you. That night, she looked at me, and I never wanted anyone else to look at me that way again. We got married 2 years later. We weren't rich, but we made it work. I started my own construction company, working long hours to build something solid for us. She worked at a local design firm doing interior projects, sometimes even helping me with clients. We were a team, or so I thought. We had our fights like anyone else. But nothing that ever made me doubt her loyalty. That was the joke, right? That's how it always starts. You never expect the knife from the one standing closest. Things started shifting slowly. Subtle changes. At first it was her phone, always turned face down on the table. Then the sudden passcode she added. I brushed it off. Everyone wants privacy. Then came the late meetings, the excuses about work piling up, the girls' nights she never had before. Again, I let it slide. I didn't want to be the jealous, insecure husband. I trusted her. I loved her. But trust, I learned, is a dangerous thing when you give it to the wrong person. It all came to a head on a rainy Thursday night. I'd wrapped up a job early and thought I'd surprise her by bringing home her favorite takeout. I walked in, the house too quiet, her car in the driveway. I remember calling her name, thinking maybe she was upstairs or on a call, but I found her in the kitchen, startled, phone in hand, voice hushed and panicked. She hung up too quickly, eyes wide, cheeks flushed. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just Melanie from work," she said, without blinking. But I knew her tells. She couldn't lie to save her life. Not to me. Not before. She fidgeted with her bracelet, looked anywhere but my eyes. I wanted to believe her, but something in my gut screamed not to. That night, I didn't sleep. While she laid next to me breathing evenly, I stared at the ceiling, drowning in suspicion. That's when it started. The digging, the quiet investigation. I went through phone records, credit card statements, social media. I wasn't looking to catch her. I was looking to prove myself wrong. I wanted the evidence to say I was being paranoid. But it didn't. It said the opposite. There were calls late at night to a number I didn't recognize. Frequent charges at a hotel across town. Restaurant bills for two on nights she said she was at yoga. The man's name was Kyle. I remember the first time I saw it on her statement. My heart thudded so loud I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know a Kyle. She never mentioned a Kyle. So I did what any man in denial would do. I gave her a chance. I asked her casually about her week, about who she worked with, if there were any new people. She didn't mention him, not once, not even when I offered her an opening. That's when I knew. I waited a few more days. I watched. I tracked. I followed her once, careful not to be seen. She met him at that same hotel, room 312. I saw them laughing, her touching his arm like she used to touch mine. The sight of it made something inside me rupture. I didn't confront her that night. I needed a plan. A revenge that wasn't loud or violent or reckless. I wanted her to feel the slow unraveling of her life, the way I had felt mine fall apart. I wanted her to lose everything she thought she had control over. So I pretended everything was fine. I played the good husband. I kissed her goodbye every morning, brought her flowers once a week, made her feel safe. All while I quietly dismantled everything. First, I started rerouting our finances. We had a joint account and a few shared investments. Slowly, I moved my money out, leaving only what was necessary to keep her unaware. I created a separate account in a different bank under a business name she didn't know. Then I began collecting evidence: text messages, emails, photos. I had a friend in IT help me clone her phone, so every message she sent I saw, every call I heard, and it only got worse. They weren't just seeing each other. She was planning a future with him. In one message, she even said she wished she'd met him before me, that she felt trapped in a life that wasn't hers. I was nothing more than a financial crutch, a safety net until she figured things out. That was the moment I stopped feeling pain. I went cold, like something inside me just shut down. I hired a lawyer next. Not just any lawyer, but someone who specialized in high-conflict divorces and asset protection. I told him everything. We crafted a plan, a timeline. We'd gather everything, build the case, and strike when she least expected it. While that was in motion, I played my part at home. I made love to her with a smile, cooked her favorite meals, listened to her fake stories about work. Every fake laugh, every forced kiss, it was fuel. Fuel for the fire I was building behind her back, and she never suspected a thing. She was too wrapped up in her affair, too blinded by her fantasy. She thought she had me exactly where she wanted: complacent, clueless, weak. But she forgot who I was, what I was capable of. I'd built a business from nothing. I knew how to lay a foundation, how to plan, how to break things down brick by brick and rebuild them stronger. By the time I was ready, I had everything: proof of the affair, financial discrepancies, even a voice recording of her telling Kyle that she was almost free, that she'd take what she could from me and then vanish. She had no idea that I was about to be the one doing the leaving. On our anniversary, I took her to the same restaurant where we had our first date. She looked beautiful, dressed in the red dress I once told her was my favorite. She toasted to 18 years of love, and I almost laughed in her face. But I didn't. I waited until we got home, until she was tipsy and glowing and full of herself. Then I handed her a thick envelope and watched her face drain of color. Inside was everything: photos, messages, hotel receipts, printouts of every lie she'd told. And on top, divorce papers. She looked up at me, wide-eyed, mouth open, but I didn't let her speak. I told her she had until morning to get out, that the house was mine, the car was in my name, and the lawyer had already frozen our joint accounts. She begged, she cried, she dropped to her knees, but I felt nothing. 18 years gone in the blink of an eye, and all I could feel was satisfaction. She had built a castle of lies, and I had brought it down in one night. She left that morning with nothing but a suitcase, and I watched her drive away without a shred of regret. You'd think that after kicking her out, handing her the evidence, and pulling the rug out from under her, I'd feel some kind of closure. But that's not how betrayal works. It doesn't wrap itself up neatly. It lingers, seeps into everything like smoke after a fire. Every quiet moment reminded me of what she'd done. I'd sit in the living room, look over at the empty spot where she used to toss her purse, and I'd feel this strange mix of relief and anger. Relief that I didn't have to pretend anymore. Anger that I ever had to in the first place. Angela didn't go quietly, of course. That was never her style. At first, she called constantly, left voicemails crying, begging, trying to explain, said it was a mistake, that Kyle didn't mean anything, that it was just an escape from the pressures of life. It was laughable, really, like cheating for 2 years, and planning a new life was something you just stumble into. I didn't respond. Not once. Silence became my weapon, and it cut deeper than any argument ever could. Then the anger came. When she realized I wasn't going to forgive her, she flipped the script, accused me of controlling her, said I had emotionally abandoned her long before she ever met Kyle, said I pushed her into someone else's arms. Classic deflection, the kind of mental gymnastics only a guilty person could manage. But I let her talk. I saved every message, every desperate, angry, manipulative word. My lawyer loved it. See, the plan didn't end with divorce papers. That was just the first move. Angela thought she could ride out the storm and somehow walk away with half of everything. But she underestimated just how far ahead I'd thought. I wasn't interested in just ending things. I wanted to make sure she walked away with the same emptiness she left me with. We went to court. She tried to play the victim, wore soft colors, cried on cue, told the judge I'd emotionally isolated her. But the evidence I had dismantled her story. Every message, every hotel bill, every lie exposed. I sat there calm, collected, and let the facts speak. My lawyer buried her with a smile on his face. When the judgment came down, she was awarded nothing beyond what the state required. No spousal support, no stake in the business. The house stayed with me. The car, mine, retirement funds, already protected. I'd built everything with a safety net she didn't even know was there. She walked in, expecting a fight. What she got was a verdict. She left the courtroom that day with a blank expression, like someone who just realized they were in a game they never understood the rules to. Kyle didn't show up to support her. Probably figured out by then that the fantasy was crumbling. From what I heard later, he ghosted her not long after the truth came out. A man who cheats with a married woman usually doesn't stick around once the illusion fades. With Angela out of my life, I turned to rebuilding mine. Not just the routines, but who I was underneath all the damage. For years, I'd poured every ounce of myself into that marriage, into her. And now I had to figure out who I was without it, without her. It started small. I changed the locks, repainted the living room, got rid of every piece of furniture she picked out. Not because I was bitter, but because I didn't want any part of her echoing in my home. I started going to the gym again, reconnected with old friends I'd pushed aside to spend time with her. I started living again, not just surviving. Funny thing is, people came out of the woodwork once the truth spread. Friends, acquaintances, even some of Angela's coworkers reached out. Turns out I wasn't the only one who had sensed something was off. A few of them had even caught whispers of her affair, but stayed silent. Said they didn't want to get involved. That stung, but I understood. Most people don't want to be the bearer of that kind of truth. But I never forgot who stayed quiet. A few months later, I got a message from someone I didn't recognize at first. Her name was Erin. She worked with Angela years ago. Said she always admired how loyal I was to my wife. That she saw Angela flirting with clients more than once and felt sick watching it. She apologized for not speaking up sooner. I told her it was fine. It wasn't her fault. But deep down, it added another crack in the foundation of who I used to be. I wasn't naive anymore. Meanwhile, Angela's life started unraveling further. She moved in with her sister for a while, then bounced between short-term rentals. Her job let her go. Downsizing, she claimed. But I knew better. Word travels fast in small circles, and her reputation was stained. Kyle had vanished. She was broke, lonely, and desperate. She reached out again, this time through email. No tears, no insults. Just a straightforward plea. She said she made a terrible mistake, that she'd lost everything and didn't know how to move forward. Said she wasn't asking for money, just for forgiveness. I read the message twice, then deleted it. I didn't need to reply. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't care. And that was the real victory, wasn't it? Not the court win, not the house or the money. The real victory was indifference. She couldn't touch me anymore. Her words, her guilt, her regret, they had no weight. But my story wasn't done yet. Because revenge isn't just about destruction. It's about rebuilding something stronger in its place. I took everything I learned from that betrayal and turned it into fuel. I expanded my business, took on bigger clients, hired new staff. I found purpose in the work again, not because I needed to prove anything to her, but because I finally remembered what it felt like to do something for myself. I started mentoring young contractors, guys just starting out, taught them not just about drywall and permits, but about boundaries, about trust, about protecting what you build, personally and professionally. I wasn't just fixing homes anymore, I was helping build lives with solid foundations. One night, I got a call from a former client, a woman named Hannah. She ran a nonprofit that I'd helped remodel a few years back. She said they needed more space, wanted someone they could trust. I took the job. During the project, we had long conversations about life, mistakes, resilience. She'd gone through a messy divorce, too. We understood each other in a way that didn't need explanation. We became friends. That was it. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people who'd been through fire and come out on the other side. It was the healthiest connection I'd had in years. Angela tried to contact me one last time, about a year after the divorce. She sent a letter, handwritten, said she hoped I was doing well and that she'd always regret what she did. Said she didn't expect anything from me, but that she needed to say it. I didn't respond. I didn't even finish reading it. I folded it up, slid it into a drawer, and left it there. It didn't belong in my present. It was a relic from a life that no longer existed. And that was the truth of it all. Angela thought she could burn down my life and walk away with the warmth of the fire. But she misjudged me. I didn't just survive, I rebuilt. Stronger, wiser, untouchable. And that was only the beginning. People often ask if I ever miss her. If there are moments when the house feels too quiet or the bed feels too big, they ask if I'd take her back if she showed up one day, broken and sincere. I always tell them the same thing. Missing someone and missing who you thought they were are two very different things. What I missed for a while was the illusion, the comfort of a lie I didn't know was a lie yet. But once the truth settled, even that faded. A year passed, then another. Life moved forward and so did I. My business kept growing, faster than I expected. I hired new foremen, upgraded equipment, and started giving talks at local trade schools about entrepreneurship and resilience. I wasn't just trying to rebuild my life anymore. I was building something bigger than myself. People respected me, not just because of the work I did, but because of how I handled what happened. I never aired our dirty laundry in public. Never badmouthed Angela to mutual friends. I let the facts speak, and over time, they did all the talking for me, but deep down, there was still a part of me that wanted the final word. A part of me that believed she hadn't paid nearly enough for what she did. Losing me wasn't punishment, it was just a consequence. And she was still out there, breathing, blaming, surviving. She had no idea how far I was willing to go to close the book on this, for good. It started with a job. One of my new clients, a property investor named Davis, asked me to remodel a duplex in the city. The place was a mess. Leaky roof, broken floors, outdated everything. But it had potential. During one of the site visits, I stopped by the upstairs unit and came face to face with a familiar voice. Angela. She stood in the hallway in an oversized hoodie holding a half-empty grocery bag. Her eyes widened when she saw me. For a second, she looked like a ghost that had just been recognized. The air froze between us. "Hey," she said quietly. I didn't respond, just nodded, walked past, and took the stairs two at a time. Later, I asked Davis about the tenant in Unit 2B. He told me she'd been there 6 months, always behind on rent. Said he was planning to evict her soon if she didn't catch up. That was all I needed to know. I told him I'd take care of the eviction. Said I had experience handling delicate tenant situations. He agreed without question. I didn't do it to be cruel. I did it because opportunity had handed me a perfect moment. She wasn't some stranger anymore. She was living in a rotting shell, barely holding on. And I had the power to take that too. I handled it by the book. No tricks, no illegal moves. Gave her the required notices. Waited the proper amount of time. When I posted the final warning on her door, I saw the blinds twitch. She was inside, probably watching, probably hating me. But she said nothing. 2 weeks later, she was gone. The unit was empty. Trash left behind. A coffee mug with a chipped handle. A few old coats in the closet. A curling photo of her and Kyle that had been ripped in half and taped back together. I left it all there for the cleaners. I didn't need souvenirs. After that, I didn't think about her for months. Not until I got a letter. Not from Angela, but from her younger sister, Leah. It was handwritten and folded in a neat white envelope with no return address. She said Angela had moved to another town and was staying in a shelter. That she was in a rough place mentally. that she blamed herself for everything. Leah asked if I'd be willing to talk to her, even just once for closure. Said Angela needed it. I burned the letter. Closure doesn't come from conversations with people who betrayed you. It comes from living a life they no longer get to be a part of. And mine was thriving. I didn't owe her peace. I didn't owe her understanding. I owed myself freedom. But here's the part no one expects. I forgave her anyway, not to her face, not in some dramatic moment filled with tears and apologies. I forgave her alone, in my own quiet way. Because carrying that anger around every day, it gets heavy. It eats at your insides, even if you've won. Forgiveness isn't about the person who hurt you. It's about taking the power back. And I was done letting her live in my mind, rent-free. I moved to a new house a few months after that, one I built from the ground up with my own crew. Every detail was mine. The layout, the finishings, even the placement of the windows. It was symbolic, I guess. A fresh start built on a foundation no one else had touched. Hannah came to the open house. She brought flowers. We sat on the back deck and drank iced tea while the sun dipped behind the trees. She didn't ask about Angela, didn't need to. She just said, "It's peaceful here." And it was. We started seeing more of each other. Not dating, not exactly. Just existing in the same space without the weight of expectation. It was good, easy, honest. Maybe it would grow into something more, maybe not. I wasn't in a rush. For the first time in years, I felt complete without someone filling the empty spaces. Angela was a chapter, a long, painful one. But she wasn't the whole story, and that's the part I think most people forget. When someone betrays you, it feels like the end. Like nothing after could possibly matter. But it does. It matters more. Because everything that comes after is proof that they didn't break you, that their choices didn't define your future. I still pass that old duplex sometimes. It's been renovated since then. Bright blue siding, new steps, flower boxes under the windows. A young couple lives there now. I saw them once carrying a baby up the stairs. They smiled at each other like nothing in the world could touch them. And maybe it couldn't. Maybe they'll be the ones who make it. Or maybe one day he'll feel that same gut punch I once did. I hope not. But if he does, I hope he knows this. You can lose everything and still win. You can be broken and still rebuild. You can be betrayed and still find peace. My name is Adam. I was a husband, a business owner, a man who believed in forever. Now I'm something more. I'm free.